Welcome to Influence Her, produced by Baker Public Relations. I am your host, Meaghan Baker. Our communities feature some of the most extraordinary and strong women. These women are pioneers and visionaries who overcame obstacles, didn't wallow in defeat, but instead chose to rise. Influence Her provides a platform to empower and influence others. On today's episode, we have the honor of speaking with Meaghan Smith, an author who has courageously shared her journey of caregiving, loss, and rediscovering love. It is such a pleasure to have you with us on this episode of Influence Her. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Meaghan, caring for your husband through illness at such a young age is an experience that truly reshapes everything. If you can take us back through that season and talk about your journey and some of those precious moments that you encountered along the way.
Sure. I think being a caregiver is the hardest job I've ever had. Your main goal is to make sure your loved one receives the best care possible, and your job is to help them survive. So it's quite taxing on the caregiver. And I think as I was a full-time teacher and I was a mom to our beautiful 7-year-old little girl, and then I would be on the phone with doctors' offices, scheduling CAT scans, MRIs, looking at his lab results on portals, making sure that our insurance covered his out-of-network chemo treatments. So you're doing all of those things on top of making sure they're physically well. That was the hardest job I've ever had. But there are some beautiful moments. I believe I gained an appreciation for life throughout this process, and we live every day like it's our last, and I still do. And I think our children also were gifted the opportunity to witness their father persevere and his strength throughout his whole battle. And I think that was a beautiful moment for our children to see how strong he was, and now they have his perseverance and his strength.
Writing about personal experiences such as this, tragic, can be both therapeutic and challenging at the same time. Why was it important for you to share this story, to pen it, and get it in a book?
Sure. I think as a 36-year-old caregiver, I was looking for a resource that provided me with just another story or somebody else who I could compare my journey to. And there was a void. I found that there needs to be more resources out there for widows, widowers, caregivers, any firsthand accounts on what I went through. So that really motivated me to write Widows Can Love Again. And as a child, I was a writer. I found myself writing for hours in the back of my parents' vehicle on the way to family trips about the scenery that's passing by. So it was always a lifetime goal, too, to write a book one day.
Balancing caregiving, as you had mentioned a short time ago, with parenting is not easy at all, especially when you have a 7-year-old. If you will, how did you navigate this, and what advice can you help to offer others?
Sure. Well, after Mikey passed away, I made sure that when Bella wasn't with me, she had safe places at her school. So I set up counseling for her anytime during the day. If she needed to leave the classroom, I made sure she could talk to somebody if she was having a moment of remembering her dad or she had some sort of sadness. And I also kept her routine pretty structured. I kept her in gymnastics, basketball, and then I also celebrated Mikey. We looked at his pictures on a daily basis. We visited him at the cemetery. Anywhere I went, I made it known that we are going to talk about him and he will be remembered. So I just keep him part of the conversation as if he's never really gone.
Faith has been a big part of your narrative. If you will share with us, because a lot of people question their faith during these times.
Yes, in my book, I write about how I struggled with the loss of my faith. And in certain moments, I wondered why God would want to take such a young man at 44 years old. I questioned it. And I think, though, my faith strengthened towards the end, his last hours, because I knew that his pain would end. I knew he would not be suffering any longer. And I think the rosary comforted me as well. I prayed on the rosary in the hardest moments. And so my faith strengthened towards the end, but in the middle of it, I just didn't understand why.
Your story certainly touches on mental health challenges. What coping mechanisms or resources did you find that were available and helpful to you?
Sure. At first, after Mikey passed away, I thought I didn't need a counselor. I felt as if I could get through this on my own. And then who was I kidding? I needed to call a therapist and to gain the coping mechanisms and the tools to get through my moments of grief, mourning. And we did some deep breathing practices. I even was able to do some sensory practices where I would be able to center my body and my heart rate, and that really helped me through any emotions that I was dealing with.
As an author, what do you hope that your readers will take away from your book?
I hope that my book will be a firsthand account of the raw experiences that widows and widowers go through, and that widows and widowers will believe that it's okay to be happy again. It's okay to feel love again, and that there are men and women out there who will provide the mourning space you need and are also still okay with the fact that you will always love another man.
That is a great segue because with loss, you did find new love. How has that journey been for you?
The journey was difficult at first. I experienced survivor's guilt. I questioned, how could I want to be with another man? My husband just died. And so I struggled with being able to continue on in life. But I realized I had to be happy in order for my daughter to be happy too. So I just took the leap, and it turned out I was lucky. I found a really nice man who allows me the mourning space that I need when I need it, and he's very understanding.
What advice can you offer to caregivers who are finding themselves in this newfound role?
One thing I never gave up on was my hope. We always had hope until the very end, until there was no other treatment available. I held on to hope, and sometimes that's all we had. And I think that self-care is very important. Even if you get 10 minutes a day to go out and walk your dog or read a couple chapters of your favorite book, you have to practice self-care in order to give you the fuel that you need to have the energy to care for your loved one. So I think self-care is very important.
Not enough people really dedicate the time to it either. And in order to take care of others, you have to be able to take care of yourself. Final question for you. How would you say that your understanding of strength and womanhood has evolved throughout this journey?
In my book, I talk about loss of identity a lot. And I think when I decided to reclaim my identity, not as I wasn't a caregiver, I wasn't running the business, taking over his shoes anymore. When I reclaimed my identity, I think I that was the strongest version of myself.
Meaghan, where can we find your book? How's it available?
Yeah, it's available on my website. It's www.megsmithauthor.com, on Amazon.com, and through Troy Bookmakers. It's also in several local bookstores right now.
Meaghan, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. We appreciate your courage in coming on and talking about some of the painful experiences in your life. And just we appreciate you sharing your story with others.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.